have not met Tech Sergeant Vizcarrondo. Come on down. Okay, he is getting here this week in case you haven't met him, don't know, but we have the old V, Vientos, who is currently deployed. She's not due back for a while now, so we now have the new V, because his last name's just about as, I think it's longer than Vientos, but Vizcarrondo. He is coming to us with 15 years of experience in personnel, and he has been at Lackland and Fort Lewis. So he's got a lot of time in 2 different locations, and now he's decided to come and spend some more time with us here in Stillwater, Oklahoma. He's happy to be here, I'm sure. His family is still living in La Quinta, I think.
Yes, sir.
Wife and 2 boys. And now you get to fill in the blanks.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I am Tech Sergeant Vizcarrondo, and just like Sheridan said, I had close to 15 years in the Air Force. I'll make it short, sweet, and to the point. I came in May of 2000 and went to basic training at that same year, tech school. I'm in human resources. Went to Biloxi, Mississippi for that. Then came back to Lackland Air Force Base, and I was there for 7 years. Even though I was in the same location, they moved me around to different squadrons. And then after that, I guess every time you get promoted, you get an assignment. They sent me over to Fort Lewis. Now it's called Joint Base Lewis McChord. At the time, it was Fort Lewis. I knew the FT meant one thing, that they were going to send me to an Army base. At that time, I didn't knew that being Air Force, you could actually be stationed on an Army base. So that was a very interesting and unique experience, and I'm actually very proud to have been with both Air Force and the Army. And that was another 7 years. I got promoted to Tech Sergeant, and I got awarded with another assignment. And I'll be, well, most of you know Sergeant Jordan. Retired, she's on her terminal leave. I don't like using the word replace because she's been invaluable, and I hear very good things about her. I always say that a person can never be replaced, only emulated. So definitely big shoes to fill, but I'm up for the challenge. Looking forward to it.
All right, thank you. Place the heritage of the accent. Anybody? Nobody recognizes any type of accent? Heritage of Puerto Rico.
Oh, yes, I forgot something. My background. I'm from Puerto Rico. So we have Spanish blood, Native and Puerto Ricans blood, and African Americans a little bad. Yeah, so the accent came with it.
All right, we have about 3 minutes for word knowledge.
One more minute?
Well, that was unnecessary. Yes.
Did you realize that your guys' spot is directly in front of the camera?
We did that too. So we could just reach up our hands and make eye contact.
You mean so you can stand up and walk over to you?
Precisely.
Just making sure. Get it right.
All right, let's have everyone back to the seats, please. All right, so as most of us know, today is 200 takeover, so I am handing the reins over to Cadet LeBoy.
Good afternoon, Colonel Terrington. Afternoon, Captain Moffitt, Lieutenant Hill, Tech Sergeant Viz Ferrado. Did I get that right? Don't push the pronunciation there, but we're glad to have you. We're excited to work with you. Good afternoon, POC and LGT cadets. Nice to see you. How are we doing? Good to hear. Cadet Trainer and I have an awesome leadership lab plan for you today. We've got some GLPs, some fantastic presentations, so let's get to it. So to start off, we'll have a presentation given by Major LeBoy. He's a T6 instructor pilot over at Advanced Air Force Base. He'll be giving us a presentation about overcoming adversity, some tools to do that, and how we can use those tools in our life so that we can be better Air Force officers. So I'll let Major LeBoy come down and further introduction to himself.
If I ask you how everybody's doing, you're going to scream that again, is that right? How's everybody doing? Outstanding, Major LeBoy! All right, okay, well I appreciate that enthusiastic welcome. I got a question for you. For the couple of dudes up on the back row, can you guys come on down, or just like Colonel Trenton says, thou shalt not separate, or who's your big or? Show of hands, are the guys in orange, are you guys the incoming freshmen? Alright. Young but enthusiastic, right? Where are my sophomores? And the juniors? Alright, and the seniors? Whoa. Alright, okay. By the way, where's Cadet Volpe? You're the Volpe, huh? Alright, I heard you got a younger brother sitting behind you? Yes, I do. Okay, you know how I know your dad, right? Yeah, I told him I'd keep an eye on you, and keep an eye on my son. All right, a question for you, a couple questions. I'm kind of curious for the seniors. We'll ask them because they're the ones who are going to be commissioned first, of course. For the seniors, just kind of shout out, what are some things that you'd like to do AFSC-wise in the Air Force?
Acquisitions.
All right, I heard pilot. What was the other one?
Acquisitions.
A what?
Acquisitions.
Acquisition. Okay, how about what are some other things you guys want to do? Guys,
Cyber.
what's that?
Cyber.
Cyber warfare?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, different. How about anybody else?
CISO.
A what?
CISO.
CISO. All right, what are you hoping to get via CISO in?
I mean, I'd love to get F-15s.
Yeah,
but
Strike Eagle.
That's kind of the most sought after one, so we'll see.
Okay, that'd be fun. Anybody else? Physicist? Who said that? Who's the brain? All right. You gotta have brains around the Air Force, man. That's very true. Look, again, thanks for having me. Yes, it's true that Cadet Malloy is my son. He's my oldest kid. You know, some of you guys know that he's kind of a brainiac. He's a mechanical engineering major. A lot of other smart guys here in the room as well. I gotta tell you, I think I may have created a monster with my son because I'm very conservative in my political and moral views, and I'm an American and dang proud of it. And that's carried over to Robert. And you know, at first, as a freshman last year, he's like, you know, Dad, I think I want to get a pistol. I'm like, oh, okay. He has since bought a pistol, and he goes, hey, Dad, there's a shotgun I want to buy. And Dad, I want to buy a rifle. And not only did he stop there, he's got thousands of rounds of ammunition, and he literally had, now this is true, and you can go to his room, he literally has like 3 months worth of food supply in his room and a bug out bag. So he may have gone overboard, so if sometimes he spouts off Rush Limbaugh stuff and Sean Hannity, then he got that from me, and now he's taking it to extreme. So, but I'm excited to be here today. Okay, I have a presentation that does talk about, focuses on overcoming adversity. Okay, now not everything that I say you may not go, that's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So if I get to some part of my discussion here, which hopefully will take about 30, 35 minutes, and I'd like to open up to some questions. If there's something that I'm saying that you don't agree with or you're not sure about it, just bear with me and we'll get through it. Hopefully you'll find something that's usable. I'm positive you will if you listen. And I'll try to open it up for questions at the end, maybe ask a few questions during the briefing itself. Okay? So who am I? I am Major Dan Malloy. I go by Twister. Okay? You can call me Sir Twister, I guess. All right? If you were a lieutenant, I think you could call me Sir. But, I've been around a long time. I've been in the Air Force for 23 and a half years. I've been a pilot for 22 and a half years. And I am extremely proud, as any pilot would be, that I've been doing this a long time. I've got about 4,900 hours of military flying time. And what makes me extremely proud is that all but about 1,100 that is in small stuff. T-37s, T-38s, T-6s. I was an EC-130 guy, which I'll show you here in a second. But I'm a pilot and very proud of it. I'll be retiring in the spring after 24 years. I started out, let me back up a second. I am an ROTC product, hoorah, okay? I'm not a Zoomy, so I'm a Rossi guy, all right? I was commissioned through Det 850 at the University of Utah, which is up in Salt Lake City in August of 1990, and I tell you, it seems like it was just yesterday. I was supposed to go to pilot training at Del Rio, Texas, Laughlin Air Force Base in the summer of 1991. And the Air Force, in their infinite wisdom, said, you know what, after the Berlin Walls come down, they said, we've got way too many pilot candidates and not enough cockpits. So they went through and they axed about 720 of us out of 750 that were commissioned and waiting to go to pilot training. They said, you're never going to be an Air Force pilot. Okay? We're not going to send you now. We're not going to send you later. And I was crushed. Okay? I was very upset. It was everything that I ever wanted to do. But I kept my head in the game. The Air Force offered me an opportunity to go active duty in a desk job. I had two options. I could separate and spend 2 years in what they call the inactive reserves, showing up 1 weekend a month in some Guard Reserve unit. Do that for 2 years and fulfill my obligation to the Air Force, where I could go active duty in a desk job with no hope or promise, no guarantee of ever going back to pilot training. And I made a bunch of phone calls, and quite frankly, some of them worked at the Air Force IG, and some worked with congressmen and senators and their staffs, and kind of got wind of, hey, if you go active duty in this desk job, the Air Force just might come around later and send you to pilot training. And that's what I did. I was an exec in a T-38 squadron at Reese Air Force Base for a year, and then I was able to get into pilot training, and I started flying T-37s. This is a plane we don't use anymore. Colonel Charrington actually flew this, and by the way, in the It's a Small World category, your Colonel Charrington was one of my former students. And I gotta tell you, I couldn't believe when I saw his name taking over as PAS about a year ago. I thought, man, I I knew a Charrington. What did I know about the Charrington from? And sure enough, when I brought Robert to school a year ago, I thought, son of a gun, it's Steve Charrington. And even then, 19 years ago or so, he was a high-speed, low-drag, hair-on-fire, in-your-face kind of guy. And he had to change the bit. So
Checks in the mail.
What's that?
Checks in the mail.
That's right. He was a hard worker, and I admired him for that as a student. So I went to start my training at Reese Air Force Base, did that for a year. Here's another picture between the LB on the tail means that it was a Lubbock-based airplane, so Reese Air Force Base. There's a good chance that I flew this exact tweet. I'd have to go back and check my records. After T-37s, back in my day when I went through pilot training, everybody got to go through 38s, and this was one freaking cool machine. Okay? Supersonic. It took 10,000 feet vertically to do a loop. And even if you sucked, you still looked cool. I mean, it was an awesome plane to fly, and I hope for those of you that are in pilot training, if you have aspirations to get into the T-38, I hope you can. Here's another picture of a T-38. I think this picture is pretty cool. It means something to me personally because when I was putting together this briefing, I was like, wow, I flew that jet. I don't mean just T-38s. I flew that exact tail number. If you can see up front, the top of the tail, it says Reese, on the very, very top, Reese 01. That is the wing commander's jet for the 64th Flying Training Wing. I flew this exact tail number in a two-ship formation ride as a student. And I'll never forget it because I was doing formation training, and when you get out of position in T-38, you can tap what they call burner, afterburner, and I tap burner every now and then to get into position quickly. And it just wouldn't respond like the other 38s that I'd flown. It was just kind of a dog, and I finished the sorting, and we land, and I'm unbuckling, and I'm talking to the crew chief, and I go, man, this thing's kind of a pig, what's up with this? And he goes, well, you know, sir, it is the wing commander's jet. And I'm like, yeah, I know that, but why is it such a dog? And he says, well, it's got like 50 pounds of paint on it to make it look pretty. And so I kind of laughed when I saw this picture. I'm like, that's pretty freaking cool that I actually flew that exact tail number. Next, after I graduated from pilot training in June of 1993, I went to go be a C-130 pilot. Okay, I was a fighter pilot wannabe and carried that torch for a long time. And quite frankly, even though I didn't accomplish that goal, I still consider myself a fighter pilot at heart. Okay, got my basic qual in C-130s at Little Rock Air Force Base, and then I went to Davis-Monthan in Tucson, Arizona, and I transitioned from BQ, basic qual, where you're just basic qualified in the airframe, to become what we call MR, mission ready. That's a full-up, go-to-war kind of pilot. This is an EC-130 Compass call. Here's another picture of it. This is a modified C-130, and you can see the big lobes on the back there on the aft of the parachute door, and the pods out there on the wings. So this is a modified 130 that is used for electronic warfare. We literally had about 20,000 pounds of computer gear in the back of the airplane and a bunch of linguists. And our job was the linguists would hop around on different frequencies, listening for bad guy comms, air to air or especially air to ground. And if they found something that was tactically related, then they would send it to another guy who would rack and stack all the frequencies and the priorities, and then he'd hand that off to an EWO, and the EWO would say, push the big red button, so to speak, to jam that frequency. So we were a comm jamming platform. I gotta tell you, it's a pretty amazing weapon system. There are only 13 of them in the entire Air Force. Actually, there's only 13 in the entire DoD. But for me as a pilot, especially a guy who wanted to fly fighters, I'm like, this is kind of boring, I want to get out of here. So I went to volunteer to go be a tweet IP. Tried to get back to T-38s, but couldn't do it because they were changing the way that they were administering pilot training, so I went to go be a tweet IP. Did that, and I got sucked back into the EC-130 for another tour, hated it just as much, and I went to go be a T-6 IP at Moody Air Force Base in Georgia. And I was there for 4 years. Went to Korea for a year on a remote tour, and came back, and I've been at Vance Air Force Base ever since. Here's another picture of a T-6 solo down low. It's a great plane to fly. Your lieutenant, where's the lieutenant? There she is in the back. Tell me your name again.
Jasmine Hill.
Last name?
Hill.
Lieutenant Hill is going to be one of these student pilots, and hopefully you will be too. Okay. Here's a picture of a two-ship of T-6s above some clouds, doing what we would call formation, or specifically fingertip, kind of like the roots there. All right. So that's a little bit about my background and what I've done. Okay. You may have noticed the word or the letters acronym on the top there. VASA. You're like, well, what the crap does VASA mean, okay? And it is this. This is what it stands for, all right? This is a program or a presentation that I put together. I've given it to some school kids and ROTC groups. This is the first one to Air Force group, okay? But it's a program where I would like to talk to you guys to motivate you about overcoming adversity and accomplishing your goals, okay? Early on, when I was your age, and again, it seems like it was just yesterday, literally, I wanted to be a fighter pilot so bad I could taste it, okay? And it actually caused problems in my life, the way I went about trying to accomplish that, okay? But as I was starting to work on that goal of becoming a fighter pilot, and that was everything, and quite frankly, I wanted it because I wanted a cool job, and I wanted everybody to think I was cool. And I will not kid you, that's why I wanted that job, okay? And I'm very proud to do what I do as an Air Force pilot, even though I didn't do that in its entirety. But as I was working and going through ROTC, just like you guys are right here, I could see that though that would be pretty freaking cool, what really turned me on was I wanted to accomplish something in my life so that I could travel the path and then turn around and help those behind me to accomplish their goals, whatever they might be, whether it's to become a pilot or a physicist or a cyborg guy or a CISO or a maintenance acquisitions guy, whatever, it doesn't matter. Whatever is important to us, Air Force related or not, that you can accomplish your wildest dreams, okay? This does have application to us as Air Force officers. All right, my question to you is, what victories do you want? What is it that you would like to accomplish in your life? Air Force or non-Air Force? Air Force-wise, I bet you guys have these goals right here, at least some of them. I'm guessing that everybody has that top one. You want the coveted gold bars, the second lieutenant, what that means to you. Perhaps others of you, like in the short term, I just need to get through the semester. I can't even see the gold bars. I just need good grades. Maybe some of you are aspiring to be squadron commanders or wing commanders. Maybe some of you here want to be a general officer or chief of staff. And who's to say that a chief of staff in the Air Force could not be sitting in this very room? That could be you. You have no way of knowing that it's not possible or that it's not doable if that's your goal. You also have other goals, I'm sure, that are not Air Force specific. Hey, someday I'd like to be a husband, or ladies, I'd like to be a wife. I'd like to have a family. Okay? I would like to, maybe it's just a general goal. I just want to be happy. I don't care what I do as long as I really am fulfilled and happy. Okay, that all sounds nice, but we also know that there are challenges along the way. For the juniors and seniors, raise your hands. Hold them up there for a second. In one word, was field training, was it easy or hard? Yes. And bull? Okay? It's not always a walk in the park, is it? Okay, you can prepare, you can train in your summer programs and spring program, but it takes work. I went to a 6-week encampment at Vandenberg Air Force Base. Okay, I was a 3-year cadet. Back then they had 6-week training camps. And there were times it was fun, but most of the time it just sucked. Tech schools can be a challenge. No matter what your agency is that you go into, it could be very difficult. Pilot training for me, man, T-38 was a grind, and T-38 was a lot of times just terror. Just constantly more information thrown at you, and I never felt prepared for a single sortie, a single sim, a single emergency procedures quiz, nothing. I never felt totally prepared, and to me as a perfectionist, that was a big deal. So it was very hard on me emotionally to get to pilot training, okay? Maybe your challenge might be, hey, I want to be an acquisitions guy, and the Air Force says, hey, in our infinite wisdom, we don't need acquisition guys right now, we need intel officers, and a lot of them. So you may put in for X and get Y from the Air Force, okay? You're going to have to roll the punches once your name's on the dotted line and you raise your hand and take that oath to sustain and support the Constitution, right? It could be that your challenge is long hours and deployments. It might be that you have unethical commanders or peers. If you haven't noticed, the Air Force has taken a very, very serious look at trying to raise the morality and the ethics level of everybody, officer, enlisted, and cadets. Okay? They've had a rash of problems where people have not made good decisions for various reasons, and the Air Force has said, this is unacceptable. We have to do better. We have to do the right thing, even if it's unpopular. It doesn't matter if one doing the bad behavior is your commander or a supervisor or one of your peers. You have to step in and say, that's not right, and have the courage to stop that. You may have health issues as you get older, okay, in your career. Now, I'd like to talk to you about somebody who was not in the Air Force, but I guarantee that if this guy was in the Air Force, he would have been a general, okay? Does anybody recognize this face? Who is he?
Steve Young, sir.
Steve Young, that's exactly right. Okay? And he is one of my heroes. I truly admire him. He was a quarterback at BYU, an All-American in 1983. In 1983, he won an award called the Davey O'Brien Award for the best quarterback in all of college. He played a total of 15 years in the NFL, won a whole ton of awards, NFL MVP 2 years, NFC Offensive Player of the Year 2 years, NFL passing title 6 times, All-Pro 4 times, Pro Bowl 7 times, and after he retired at his first opportunity, he was inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. This guy is a freaking winner. He is a stud, okay? But what I want to talk to you for about 10, 12 minutes, and I'll try to get through it quickly to keep it interesting and moving, is what his story is. And he will tell you that it was not all roses. It was not easy, okay? When I read his story, it was kind of like a good deal and bad deal type idea is what it seemed like to me, okay? You'd have victories and then you'd have defeats, and I don't mean just on the football field. He came out of Connecticut as a high school student. He won this scholarship to go to BYU to play quarterback. Okay, now BYU at that time, they were referred to as quarterback U. They had a long string of quarterbacks. Everyone, year after year, would go on and play in the NFL and did quite well in the NFL. And that's what he wanted to do, and he was signed with a scholarship by them to be a BYU quarterback. He was all-state, all-everything, student body president of his school, and he gets to BYU as a freshman, walks up, and the first day he's looking for his name on what's called the depth chart. You know, he's going to be third team, fourth team, and freshman. Instead, he finds out of 8 quarterbacks, guess where he is? He's the very last one. And he's very discouraged, and it didn't take him long to call his dad and say, Dad, I don't know what I'm doing here, I think I'm going to quit. And his dad, who had the nickname Grit, he said, Steve, you can quit if you want, but you cannot come home. This is not a home for quitters. So you got to decide what to do. And so he stuck with it his freshman year, and he just stayed down there on the bottom of the depth chart. As a matter of fact, I just read a story about him the other day, that when he was a freshman, that his quarterback coach was a guy named Doug Scoville. And Doug Scoville said, he watched Steve throw, and he says, you will never play quarterback at BYU. Steve Young in high school had run what they call the option offense. Now, some of the guys may know that, some of the girls may know that, but in case you don't, that's a running type offense. The quarterback gets the ball, and just before he gets tackled, the quarterback chooses, he has the option of keeping the ball and trying to pick up some yardage, or he's going to pitch it to one of his running backs and let them run with it. Okay? It is a running attack. It is not a throwing attack. And Steve Young is at a throwing college, and he does not know really how to throw the ball. The first time that he took a snap in practice with his coach watching, he said for some reason he was not wearing cleats, and he took the snap from under the center, and he stepped back 3 steps. Each quarterback was doing this in turn. Take the snap, step back 3 steps, throw the ball, and the coach was watching. Well, Steve, on his very first snap, took the snap from the center, and he moved back 3 steps. He'd never done a 3-step drop, and he fell. Okay, and all the other quarterbacks and even the centers that they were getting the snaps from were laughing at him. That was humiliating to him. He had come from being a Mr. Everything in his high school in Connecticut to being a nobody, and that just added to his frustration. And the coach said, not only you can't throw, but he says, I refuse to start a left-handed thrower, because he says every quarterback in the NFL Hall of Fame was a right-handed quarterback, and Steve Young was a lefty. And so this guy, Doug Scoville, says, you'll never play for me. Well, Steve persisted. He hated his freshman year. He wanted to quit. His dad would say, it's up to you, but you're not coming home. At the end of his freshman season, the quarterback coach, Doug Scoville, got hired by San Diego State University to be their head coach, and he left BYU. They had made a decision, the coaching staff at BYU, they're like, man, this guy's Steve Young, not much of a thrower, but man, is he fast, and he's elusive, he's extremely athletic. Let's move him from quarterback to be a defensive back. And Steve Young hated that idea, but he started working out with the DBs. But when he found out in January of his freshman year that this quarterback coach, Doug Scoville, had left, he thought maybe there's a chance that with his negative attitude that he had given and said, you will never play for me, he thought maybe there's a chance. And so in January and February of his freshman year, he said that he would work out with the DBs over the winter, and then after they had finished practice every day, he said, I would set up targets out there 10, 20, 30, 40 yards away in a bag of balls. And he says, I still wanted to play quarterback for BYU. And so he says, I started to throw every day. he estimated that between January and February of that freshman year alone, that he threw 10,000 spirals in 2 months. You do the math, that's about 165, 166 throws every day. We're not talking 10 yards. He's hitting 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 yards. He says, my arm is killing me, but he says, I wanted to play quarterback. The new quarterback's coach would see Steve Young, and after a while he noticed he was persistent throwing the ball day after day after day, and he goes, what are you doing? And Steve says, I want to be a BYU quarterback. Well, the guy didn't stop him. Steve kept throwing. The coach was impressed. He goes to the head coach, who's a guy named LaBelle Edwards, and he goes, are you sure you want to move Steve Young to DB? And the coach is a guy named LaBelle Edwards, and he says, yeah, I do. He says, he's fast and stuff, and we could use him. He goes, you might want to come see how well he's throwing the ball. And so he got LaBelle Edwards, the head coach, and they watch Steve Young, and they go, what can you do for the head coach? And so he throws, and he's hitting all the targets, 10, 50, 40, 30, 20 yards, and the coach is impressed with LaBelle Edwards. And he's like, holy crap. He goes, you know what? I tell you what, I'll give you through spring ball of the next season, spring football. Show us what you can do. Well, between Steve's work as a freshman, those 10,000 spirals, and all the other work, he says, I was the first one to practice and the last one to leave. Between his work and some people that had graduated and some others that thought that they would never have a chance at BYU, they had left. And within 1 full year, within 12 calendar months, he went to go from being the 8th string to the 2nd string. And that is good news, okay? Now, the bad news is that he backed up a quarterback whose name was Jim McMahon. Jim McMahon was a stud, and you can find videos of him on YouTube all over the place. He was BYU starting quarterback his junior and senior year, so when Steve Young was a freshman and a sophomore. Jim McMahon set 70 NCAA records, not 7, 70, okay? He led and broke everything. He went on himself to have a 15-year career in the NFL. He was drafted in the first round by the Chicago Bears. And in 1985, when the Bears won the Super Bowl, he was their quarterback. Okay, if you've ever heard about a BYU quarterback mooning a press helicopter before the Super Bowl, that was Steve Young. I'm sorry, that was Steve McMahon. And the bad news is that now he's got to back up that guy. He's like, well, I'm a BYU quarterback, I'm 2nd string, which is cool, but he goes, I'm not going to play with Jim McMahon around. Well, the good news is he persists. Jim McMahon graduates. Now Steve Young is a junior. He's the starting quarterback. And in his first game, they play UNLV, and they beat him like 28-7. Okay? But who is UNLV? They're not a powerhouse. The next game is against the University of Georgia. Now, the University of Georgia in 1982, that season, they ended up going 11-1. Okay? And BYU was like their second game of the season. And they had their offensive weapon was a guy named Herschel Walker. And that's who this guy is right there. Herschel Walker, as a freshman, was 6'1", and he weighed 225 pounds. He was an All-American as a freshman at the University of Georgia. He was an All-American as a sophomore. And he was an All-American as a junior. And his junior year, he won the Heisman Trophy Award. He was regarded as the nation's best football player in college. And he ended up going professional. He went to the USFL for several years, and then he jumped ship when the USFL folded, and he went to the NFL. And I got to tell you, some of these numbers, I'll just read them to you. In the NFL alone, he ran for 13,787 yards. When you added up his rushing total, his kickoff return, and his receiving yards, he was responsible for 18,168 yards. I did the math. That is 10.3 miles of offensive production out of this guy in the NFL alone. When he retired, he was the second leading offensive player when you added up those categories in all of NFL history. I thought it was interesting, too. The picture on the left, this is Herschel Walker in college. The picture on the right is him when he's almost 47 years old in an MMA fight, okay? This guy right here, he has some really unusual training habits. He sleeps for 5 hours a night. He eats 1 meal a day, dinner only. It's mostly soup and salad. He'll occasionally eat chicken. His training regime, he's never lifted a weight in his life. He does anywhere from 750 to 1,500 push-ups a day and 2,000 sit-ups a day. And he still does it today. Okay? The guy athletically is a freak. He's an animal. And this is who Steve Young and the BYU Cougars are playing in their second game of the season. His second starting game ever. There are over 70,000 fans in the stands for the game. To BYU, this is the biggest game they've ever played in their lives. Steve Young is so nervous that he throws up several times before the game. He plays the game in the rain, which any quarterback will tell you playing in the rain is horrible because you can't throw and the receivers have a hard time catching. And Steve Young throws not one, not two, not three, but 6 interceptions, and they lose the game on the last drive, 17-14. Who do you think feels responsible for that loss? Steve Young. Okay? But he keeps his head down and he keeps working. And he establishes a pretty good record as a junior, and then as a senior, they have a phenomenal year. And Steve Young wins the David O'Brien Award as the nation's best quarterback. And he finishes the Heisman voting trophy that year as the second best college player ever. More good news, he's drafted by an upstart rival league. Okay, you all know about the NFL. Years ago, this time in 1984, there was a rival league starting up called the USFL, the United States Football League. They wanted to capitalize on America's passion for football. They said, rather than go head-to-head with the NFL in the fall, we're going to go ahead and start up our league. We're going to play in the spring. And they moved Steve Young away from the NFL, which would have been surely #1 round draft pick. They gave him the highest contract at that time ever for any professional sports athlete, $40 million. And so they got him to play for the Los Angeles Express. That first season with the USFL, with the LA Express, they went 8-5, a decent year, 8-5 after he'd started up because he showed up late in the season when he was finishing college. And they got all the way to the league championship game, and they ended up losing. But they had a decent year overall, actually. It was 10-8. The next year, they play, and the team is horrible. Look in the back, you can see it very well, but what's missing in the seats back there? Fans, there's no people. The league is really financially struggling. At one point, they said that they were in a practice, and a moving truck pulled up to their facilities. And the guys got out, and they're over to practice, and guys got out, and then they start moving furniture out of their offices. And what it turned out was that the team had financial problems, the LA Express. They couldn't pay their bills, and so they came back and repossessed the furniture. Okay, and this happened during practice. Another time, they were so strapped for money that they were on the bus ready to go to a game, and the bus driver says, "This is the LA Express team bus driver." He goes, "I'm not taking it." They go, "Why not?" He says, "I haven't been paid in weeks." And so the team members, the players, and some of the coaching staff, they got up enough money to pull together and they paid the bus driver, and he drove them to the game. Okay? The league fell apart after that last year. Financially, it was a mess. And not only did they fall apart financially as a team and as a league, but this team, which had gone 10-8 the year before, promising almost to the championship game, they ended up going 3-15, 3 victories, 15 losses. They actually lost one game, 51-0. Another time in a game that same last season, they were so short on quarterbacks that they had another guy come in to play quarterback, and they used Steve Young and his running skills. He actually played a few downs as a running back in the game towards the end of the season. That is bad news, and he's extremely frustrated. The good news, though, is that he shops around, he buys himself out of that contract in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFL. They pick him in what they call a supplemental draft. The USFL failed, and so the NFL held an out-of-season draft to say we'll take the best players that the USFL had and we'll bring them to the NFL. The Buccaneers is who he ended up playing for, so that's good news. Okay, the bad news is that the Bucs stunk. They were horrible. The 2 previous years before Steve Young got there, they went 2-14 each year. So they played, 36 games? They've won 4, and they've lost 28. Okay, what's that, 2-14, public math, 14-28. So 4 wins and a ton of losses, okay? And he gets blamed for it. So he was brought in as a savior, and it turns out with no talent around him, he can't produce the wins, and now fans are ready to run him out of town. His agent shops around to other NFL teams, and somebody else wants him, and he ends up going to the San Francisco 49ers. More good news. The bad news is that he's backing up a guy named Joe Montana. Okay? Got to think there for a second. Joe Montana, at that time for the for the 49ers, had won 2 Super Bowls. He later went on to win 2 more with the 49ers for a total of 4. And he's often regarded as the NFL's best quarterback ever. So good news, Another team in the NFL wants Steve Young, but the bad news, he's now backing up who is the best quarterback in the entire league. And so he doesn't play. After doing this for 4 years, good news finally happens. And here's another side note too that I thought was interesting. He was so frustrated, Steve Young. He's like, I want to play, I want to play, I want to play, and I'm backing up Joe Montana. He rented a room from one of his fellow players. And one day Steve Young was out, and this other player who was a lineman for the 49ers needed some socks, believe it or not. And so he goes, I'll borrow from socks from my buddy Steve. He goes into Steve Young's sock drawer while he was gone. He found 13 checks from the 49ers written to Steve Young. Every check was at least $90,000, and they were uncashed. Steve Young says, I didn't feel like I deserved the money. He had $1.2 million sitting in a sock drawer because he said, I just didn't feel like I deserved what I was being paid. I wanted to play. Well, after 4 years of that frustration, Joe Montana is hurt. And so now it's Steve Young's opportunity to start. That's good news. That's great news. The bad news is that he goes 4-4 in his first 8 games. He wins 4 and he loses 4 in San Francisco after all these Super Bowls with Joe Montana. That's unacceptable. So now he gets hurt in the 9th game. His backup is a guy named Steve Bono. He loses the next game, but then he reels off 5 victories. And now Steve Young, even when he's healthy again, he's like, hey, I'm back, I'm healthy, I want to play. Montana's out, I was the starter. They go, no, we're winning with Bono. You're going to be number 2. Bad news. Bono gets hurt. Steve Young comes in, he wins a couple games at the end of the season. They go 10-6, which is usually good enough to get you into the playoffs, but not that year due to the way the math works, and who beat who, and they go, no playoffs. So now again, this is the first time in 10 years that the 49ers have not been to the playoffs. Who gets the credit or the criticism? The quarterback, Steve Young. The next 2 years, he comes in. The next year where they thought Montana would be healthy, he's not. Young's the starter. They have a phenomenal year. They get all the way to the NFC Championship game, and they play the Dallas Cowboys. Okay? They lose in a nail-biter to the Cowboys. Who gets the criticism? Steve Young. The next year, they start off pretty good. They go 4-1, and then in the 6th game of the year, they get beat badly on NFL Monday Night Football, and they just get pummeled by the Philadelphia Eagles. In the 3rd quarter, the coach, not thinking that it's Steve Young's fault, he pulls Young out to protect him. And Young is so irate because he feels like he's been humiliated on national TV, that here's the starter, they've had a good year, they're getting crushed in this game, that it looks to him like the coach is blaming him and him alone for this problem. Steve Young is so mad that he gets into a verbal argument with the coach, his own coach, on the sideline. And he challenges him to a fight on TV. He's so furious. He's frustrated, he's angry, he says, I've had it after all I've done with the Niners and trying to be politically correct and be respectful towards Montana, and I put my heart out and you pull me out of the game, and he challenges him to a fight. Well, the team sees that and they rally around Steve Young and they're like, holy crap, this guy is our leader, he's got fire. And so Steve Young lets them rally around him, they go on and they end up finishing the year 13-3 that season. They get to the NFC Championship game again for the 3rd time in a row against the Cowboys, and they actually beat them. They beat them, and now they're in the Super Bowl, and they play the San Diego Chargers. Biggest game of his life. He goes out there, he throws not 1, not 2, not 3, but 6 touchdowns. He sets an NFL record for touchdowns in the game. He runs for 49 yards. He's the highest yardage total for throwing and for running. He's the NFL or MVP of the game of the Super Bowl. And this is a photograph of the celebration. Okay. Now I got to tell you, I watched the game. This was 1994 when I was about your age, and I saw this, and I looked and looked for a clip of this, and I couldn't find it. But I did find the exact words, so bear with me. I'll try to recreate this a little bit. Okay, he's there and he's holding the trophy, and he addresses the team. He says, every guy in here made a commitment. You know you did. There were times when it was dark. It was really dark, but we turned back and into each other's faces and committed to each other. That's a key word. We committed to each other. You knew we had to do it this way. This is the greatest feeling in the world, is it not? Is he screaming at the top of his lungs? Is this not the greatest feeling in the world? I share this with every one of you guys. Everyone in this room made a commitment, and we're there, and no one can ever take this away from us. Okay? That is what this triumph means to Steve Young. This is a guy that had overcome adversity, and he ended up later being put into the Hall of Fame. Okay. Now, I ask you, and then later on he critiqued those who criticized him. And this is what he said about those who criticized him. He said, oh, he can't win the big game. He can't win the championship. Remember, he'd been to the NFC Championship and lost 2 times before. He can't lead the team in 2 minutes, meaning the 2-minute offense. It's like the nature of the game. The cynics win the day most of the time, so you end up responding to it because it's the nature of who you are as an athlete. You say, I can't do it, I'm going to prove you wrong. And I'm going to use that as incentive to actually go out and achieve something. Rather than let adversity push him down and keep him down, he's like, I'm going to prove you wrong. That's why I say if this guy were an Air Force officer, he'd be a general. Because he's not going to let things mold and shape him. He's going to act and not be acted upon. Okay? Now, what does that have to do with us as Air Force officers and future Air Force officers and leaders? Okay? I ask you to consider where you are in your life. Where are you with your goals, Air Force or personal? Where are you now, and more importantly, where are you now, and where do you want to go? How far away are you? If I asked you guys, if I asked any one of you, even the strongest guy here, if I said, hey, I want you to go outside, and I own a little tiny 1988 Ford Festiva that didn't weigh very much, but if I said, I want you to pick up the front end of that car, you couldn't do it, obviously. But if I give you a jack, and I say, now, lift up the car, you can do that. Of course you could. So what changed? It was the tool. With the right tool, you can get the job done. And that has application to us as leaders. It has application to us even as followers. Okay? How? What kind of tools? You gotta have a goal, man. You gotta have a goal. And not only do you have to have a goal, but you gotta write it down. You ever heard the saying, a goal not written is only a wish? Okay? You've gotta write down your goal. And I encourage you to be specific. Be objective. I have students come to me every sortie and we say, what is your objective for today? What do you want to get done? And when the students are new, they don't quite understand. They're like, well, my objective is I want to be better today than I was yesterday. And I go, no offense, but that's crap. That's not clear enough. What we need is I want to be plus or minus 115 on my altitude. I need to miss no more than 3 radio calls. I want to land 5 out of my 6 landings today with no help from using instructor cert. Those are objective. Those are clear. Those are quantifiable. They can be measured. And that's the way that you need to write your goals. Your goal needs to be something like, I want to get at least a B+ in biology this semester. Okay? I want to win an officer training slot at the end of my sophomore year and go to field training in the summer of 2015, whatever it might be. It needs to be objective and quantifiable. Okay, you need to break down the long-term goals and short-term goals. You got to have a plan. What are you going to do first? What are you going to do second? What are you going to do third? Okay. Anybody ever seen the movie What About Bob? Okay. I'll see if this plays here. See if it works. This will be Cadet Moy's critique right here. All right. In this clip or in the movie, Bob is neurotic. Okay, he's crazy basically, and he's scared of everything. And in this clip, his psychologist daughter asked him if he wants to go on a boat with him to go sailing. So let's see if this plays here. No sound, Robert. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, real quick. Let's see. Yep, there he is. Let's see if we can drag this back in. It's as loud as it gets.
Use the push button.
I'll try this one more time. I'm sorry, guys.
Do you want to come stand with me on my friend George's boat? That's okay.
No, I'd love to. It sounds great. I've never been on a boat and I don't think I can handle it. It just makes my lips numb to think about it. But if your friend is a good sailor and the craft is seaworthy, yes, I will go sailing. Yeah, let's go sailing. I have no other plans. I'm sailing! I'm sailing! I'm sailing!
need as Air Force officers, okay, is I would recommend that you visualize, okay? Now again, maybe all of these tools don't work for you, but if you really want to accomplish something great, there's going to be adversity. You've got to see yourself succeeding. There was a psychologist in the 19th century named William James, often regarded as the father of American psychology, and he said, to be, act as if you are. Today we would say, fake it till you make it. Okay? If you've done any reading at all about college and professional sports players, a lot of them do this visualization with sports psychologists. Over and over, they visualize themselves making that foul shot, throwing that touchdown, kicking that goal in at the last second. You know, they see themselves doing it over and over and over again to begin to believe that they can do it. Okay? I recommend that you do that often. If you can, once per day, it's a minimum. Okay? Positive words. Find quotes. All right? Find words that uplift you. They could come from various sources. They can come from quotes from famous statesmen like Winston Churchill. If you are religious, you can quote from the scriptures. If you love poetry, you can find them in poems. I personally love poems. I use all three, but you've got to find positive words. Words have power. They've done many studies, repeatable over and over again through the years, that say that words actually hurt us more than words. Words hurt us more than physical punishment is what I'm trying to say. Think about a time that somebody said something to you that was unkind or hurtful. You remember that. And you remember that long after your body has healed. Words have power to hurt, but words have power to live. Okay, another one, music. Use music. If music is something that speaks to your soul, find music that is uplifting. And I don't mean just the testosterone kind of pounding music that you might listen to when you're doing your PFD 1.5 run. I can relate to that. I still got to run that too. Find music that makes you feel like, you know what, I believe in myself, whatever it might be. Family and friends. You can't choose your family, okay, but you can choose your friend. Your family, ask them to help you achieve your goals. If for whatever reason they're not able to, help them achieve theirs. For your friends, I would caution you to choose your friends carefully. If your friends are the kind of people that when you leave them, you tend to feel worse about yourself, you need to talk to them and tell them to knock that off. Okay? If they will, great, they are your friend. If not, it's time to choose new friends. I had two good friends when I was in high school, and I remember them and love them to this day, okay? Because we were close and we lifted each other up. Mentors. This is one great thing about the Air Force, is that the Air Force actually does try to have mentors. That would be your immediate supervisor, or maybe your supervisor, the squadron commander. You do feedback as an officer at least every 6 months, and you have an OPR, Officer Performance Report. Mentors are simply people that have been down the road that you would like to go, but they're willing to help. Okay? And the cool thing about life in America, and especially in the Air Force, is that there are a lot of mentors out there. When you find a mentor, ask them if they'll help you, and periodically let them critique you. Don't be angry if they tell you that you're making a mistake. They're only trying to critique your performance, not you as a person, and there's a big difference in that. So don't be offended if they say, hey, you can do better, you need to do something different. Exercise. Stay in shape. Okay? The older you get, the harder it is. Exercise releases endorphins. What do endorphins do? Make you feel better, right? What's that? Make you happy. You betcha. Okay? They help us combat stress as well. Your body and your brain and your spirit perform better if you are healthy. Positive mental attitude. I cannot stress this enough. Okay? Are you a glass half full kind of guy or a glass half empty kind of guy? It makes a difference. As an instructor, I can see it on the faces and in the body language of the students that I teach. If they're doing well, it's easy for them to have that kind of body language that says, I'm here and I can do this, Major Lloyd. But if they're struggling, if they're a glass half empty kind of person, if they don't believe that they can do it, when the chips are down, you can see it on their face, you can see it in their body language. They walk like they've got one foot in the grave. That kind of person is not going to be successful in pilot training or any major endeavor in their life. You've got to have a positive mental attitude. What's missing? Work. Steve Young, those 10,000 spirals. You've got to work for this, guys. It isn't easy. Nobody's going to give you your pilot slot. Nobody's going to give you your gold bar. Nobody's going to make you become a captain like that. You know, if you want to be a wing commander, those guys got there through a lot of long hours and a lot of hard work. You've got to be willing to work. Work is the engine of progress. One of my favorite sayings is from Thomas Edison. Edison, you might know, is the guy that he didn't invent the light bulb. He invented the first commercially viable light bulb. He tried hundreds and hundreds of materials for filament. The filament is the part in between the wire over here and the wire over here in the light bulb. What bridges the gap? That's the filament. He tried hundreds, thousands of materials before he found one that would work and burn, that we go, hey, we can produce this and actually make money off of it. The quote that I love is he says, any man can accomplish as much as I have if he will stick to a task, work like hell, and make the damn thing work. Okay, now, I don't swear, but I love the audacity and the in your face, get it done. That attitude. You can accomplish great things if you just refuse to give up. Now, prayer, again, some of you believe in God, some of you don't. That's fine, but I ask you to consider this. I've read probably 10 or 12 books on POWs, American POWs. Most of them have been Vietnam POWs. I have never heard or read of one Vietnam POW or any POW that did not say that prayer was essential to him. Okay? One of those POWs that I read about is this guy right here. This is this is Brigadier General Robbie Reisner. Okay, he was a fighter pilot, born right here in Tulsa, probably 50 miles east of here. In World War II, he flew P-38s, P-39s, P-40s. In Korea, he was an F-86 pilot, which you stand in front there on the left. He flew 108 combat missions, and he had 8 MiG kills. He was an ace. In Vietnam, he flew F-105 Thunder Chiefs. He flew 55 combat missions, and he was finally shot down. He was captured in 1968. Here's a really brief synopsis, and then something that he said that I think is profound. Said after several days of travel on foot and by truck, Reisner was imprisoned in Halalo Prison, known as the Hanoi Hilton to American POWs. However, after 2 weeks, he was moved to Kulok Prison, known as the Zoo, where he was confronted during interrogations with his Time magazine cover. As a Korean War ace, he was quite famous, and after the Korean War, he had a Time magazine article written on him, and the North Vietnamese knew who he was. So he was a highly prized prisoner to them. So he was interrogated over his Time magazine cover and told that he's captured and highly coveted by the North Vietnamese. Returned to the Hanoi Hilton as punishment for disseminating behavior guidelines to the POWs under his command. Reisner was severely tortured for 32 days, culminating in his coarse signing of an apologetic confession for war crimes. Reisner spent more than 3 years in solitary confinement. All total, he spent 7 years, 4 months, and 27 days as a POW. Okay? This is what he had to say. He talked about this in his autobiography, which I've read and I highly recommend. It's called The Passing of the Night by Robbie Reisner. He said, to make it, I prayed by the hour. It was automatic, almost subconscious. I did not ask God to take me out of it. I prayed He would give me strength to endure it. When it would get so bad that I did not think I could stand it, I would ask God to ease it, and somehow I would make it. He kept me. Okay? If you do not believe in prayer, that's fine. For those of you that do, I encourage you to use that as an avenue to help accomplish your goals. Again, there are other tools that you might find that work for you that would not work for me, or vice versa. I've talked too long, guys. The one piece of advice that I would like to leave with you is what I tell my students. And that is when they're in the airplane and they feel overwhelmed, that they need to take charge of the airplane and make something happen. My advice to you guys is the rising generation. I'm gone, guys, in 6 or 7 months. It's going to be you, even down to the freshmen, in a matter of years, that will be leading America. Okay? As a brand new 2 lieutenant, 2nd lieutenant, I was really humbled when I one night ran into a master sergeant. We had over 20 years. I had less than 20 days, and he called me sir. He treated us with respect, and if we were in a position to work together, he would have referred to me as the leader. That is you. My advice to you guys is with your life, whether it be Air Force career or your personal life, take charge. Make something happen. Okay? Get involved, live your life to the best of your ability, and make something happen. America is desperate for leaders in their economy. With that, I thank you. If we have any time, I'll open it up for questions if we have any time.
Hey, cadets, actually, we don't have any time for questions now, but if you would, we'll be sticking around at the detachment after LLab is finished. And so when you're finished before 200 class, we'll go ahead and back. If you want to ask any questions, he'll be there and available. Let's give a round of applause.
Out that all the things you said, you've heard me just harp on and go on, and this is not planned, this is not programmed, but the key key takeaways is, persistent determination. If you have a goal, go get it. Nobody's going to give it to you. In this age of entitlement, don't be that. Don't be that guy. And the last thing was, don't quit. If you have a goal, keep going until you get it. He mentioned that back when he was going through in 95 or in 90, that the Air Force came through and wiped out all the pilot slots and banked a lot of people. Does that have any correlation to today, especially to the field training slots that we had 40% scraped off the top that didn't get to go last year? So the only thing that's true out of this is that you're here to meet the Air Force needs. If it doesn't necessarily align with yours right now, don't quit until you get what you want.
Thank you. Okay, before we all head over, I'd like to dismiss the GOP leaders to get a head start over there. So before we do walk over, I strongly encourage and invite all of us to not let the feelings that we had during the presentation, whatever thoughts you might have had about how you can make yourself a better person, don't let those get covered up by the GLPs that we're going to go ahead out and do. Write those down as soon as you can. So up here, this is the distribution of the wing staff, what flights you guys will be going into. It turns out all of our GLP leaders came from Alpha Flight, and so they had all the gaps that need to be filled. So at this time, I'd like to dismiss Alpha Flight first, and Bravo and Charlie. Please go over there in a timely manner. Flight commander, take the floor button. And Alpha Flight, I'm going to put that loud. Bravo, Charlie Flight, bring it up.
Taylor 1, 2, 1, 2. 1. All right, one's kind of over here in this corner, 2 is over here in this corner.
Number 1. That's a number 2 for a reason. Number 2 for a reason. I'm number 2 for a reason. Thank you guys. Get it. Number 3. That's how you know it's all right. Are you going to do the talking? Yes, Sergio.
I'll let you know so
Okay.
Okay. Have him face that way. Yes,
All right, racket stay. Can everyone go like right here and face me this way? It should be in secret.
Starting now.
I can do anything you need help with.
I think we're fine right now.
Okay.
Excuse me.
All right, you guys are going to be in 2 teams. You will all be blindfolded besides the last person in the line. No one is allowed to talk, so the line of cadets must trust the eyes of the last person as they guide the line solely by however means you want to. Your goal is to pick up some letters that are scattered around the room and place them in your corresponding trash can. Once the time is called, the team with the most letters wins. Awesome. Oh, and once you put a letter in the trash can, the person in the front of the line goes to the back of the line and they take their blindfold off. Give it to the person that doesn't have one. So, is there any questions?
Person in the back. I thought you were going to be rough for a moment.
He's like, yes. How long are these?
You no longer want
So it's like he's trying to joke.
You guys have 8
That is very cool.
I'm very funny, man.
Let's form the 2 lines up right in the front here.
There's no thank you.
Yeah.
For each flight.
All right, have
There
fun.
should be 2 teams. 2 lines.
All right, team 1. Team 1, follow me. No, you'll start next
All right,
time.
I watched Interstellar last night.
Yeah, take it off.
I watched Interstellar last night. It's a really good movie about space.
Have you watched the 200 or the 100 or is it?
The letters are all different
The
colors.
100. Have you started watching that? It's on Netflix.
The trash cans are located right here. There's two little ones. Y'all's is the white. Y'all's is the white.
You racist.
Yeah.
They're playing a game. You're more than welcome to join today, Billy.
I'm supposed to walk around and make sure people are being safe. They look like they're being safe. No blindfolds. This is not safe. This is not safe at all.
Get a Billy, am I safe?
Everybody else.
Okay.
I go ahead and form
It's
the
not
line.
safe though.
Hold on.
Facing my mental health.
That's because you spent too much time around movies.
You're at the front. Top it, grab, stags, shoulders.
We need transition.
Line, are we ready?
Jurgensmeyer, Talbot, shoulders.
Of course we are.
Grab Talbot, shoulders.
All right, ready? Begin.
Oh, that's right. We're part of the GLP right now.
I'm an obstacle.
Make sure you get Brand's confusion.
Who's leading him?
Leader.
Give commands.
My knee itches. Leader.
Can the leader talk?
No talking.
Well, what am I supposed to be doing then?
The
I
lead.
can't see anything.
See,
I just know. All right, let's just start.
I'm gonna say, okay, everybody, go on and backwards. I'll do that.
Just let it go.
What are we doing?
You can only pick up, no, only the person in the front can pick up the letter. Only the person in the front picks up the letter, and you put it in your corresponding bucket.
I told him that they can pick up one.
Like I can't see anything.
Yes.
Why aren't they walking backwards so the dude with the eyeballs can pick up the letters?
That makes so much sense, Kalubi. Don't question things, alright? Just go with it.
My bad for being efficient.
No ingenuity here. Kim can't afford that on Air Force salary. Let's check the other GLPs.
The other groups are playing.
But then what's the point of having them rotate?
You're being safe, you're being safe, good.
Pardon me, gentlemen. How about 3 letters max? You can only pick up 3 letters max per bucket trip.
You can pick up 3 per trip to the bucket.
Actually, the actual business is at 5. The actual business is at 6:30. Social hour is from 5:30 until 6:30. What I'm thinking is during that social hour, you guys can go up on the stage and practice. That way, you and your mate can be there for 2 hours.
So we can just show up at when we're supposed to be 5:30
Yeah.
and then practice.
How about show up, you and your date show up at 5:15, just to be safe? So yeah, you and your date show up at 5:15, okay? And you guys just come in, you can have your dates come in if you want, right? And stay out there until 5:15.
I'll go stand there?
But you still have to do social hour. You're really good, I'm sorry.
Forward step.
Can't talk.
But I like talking.
Only the front person.
Do you think you'll be okay?
Yes, that's what we did in the past. Social hour is outside. That's inside. They're not supposed to be inside. So they're not going to be inside.
Your leader can see it.
Right tap, got it. Oh, Jesus Christ. Left. All right. Walking this way. Walking. What are you doing?
Brant, you're gonna love this video.
Guide me.
Where is my hairbrush?
Oh, where is my letter?
No, I can't pick up another one. Why? I already have 3. Lead me to the bucket. Someone lead me to the bucket.
Why are you talking?
You have deposited that into the book bucket. Please try again.
You're gonna move my hands from your shoulders as you're bending down.
Here, let me get
Smile. You're on candid camera.
All right, so now you take your blindfold off, go to the back of the line. And
Oh,
give it-
thank the Lord.
Right.
Oh, dear God.
You're now the leader of this.
I'm the leader of this outfit.
No, well, kind of. The blind
4
leader.
minutes and 40 seconds. You have a total of 8 minutes.
This is not going Oh.
Wait, stop.
To let you take the time, like, hey, you're gonna be a little bit different.
Or she went to.
You gotta break around.
Trying to concentrate here, Libby.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Now you take your blindfold off.
I remember that from last.
No, I'm sorry.
We can put this stuff up.
And you give your blindfold.
I'm sorry.
No, definitely not. I had this like hour between 4:45 and 6 where I didn't know what to do.
What are you doing to me? Oh, stepped on one.
Yeah, I gotta go.
Okay, I got 3. Get me back to the bucket.
Yeah, I'm getting.
Oh.
What do I do now? Are we doing progress?
You deposited that in the other team's bucket.
Grab one. You're good. Pick up the blindfold.
Give your blindfold to Kuiper. You guys have responsibility.
Okay. Wait, do we realize that's not any other team's bucket?
Oh, God.
You guys are special.
Snakes are related to
Do we run into something?
Jackie Chan. Dude, I gotta move with my group here. Just following our leader.
2 minutes left. No talking.
Drop it like it's hot.
Are we done yet? I know 2.5 minutes are up.
That's
the
time.
blindfolds.
Alright, move your blindfolds and form back up over here.
Yeah, I think it's pretty hot in the world.
Wow. Too small of a headband.
That was deeply entertaining.
All right, so you're not done with your letters. You have to create a word.
I passed that to him.
We have no vowels.
There's African words.
Well, I got
Silt. Me too. I saw SIL.
Silt.
You have 10 seconds.
Hey, silt.
9, 8, 7, 6,
5 seconds.
5, 4,
I guess.
3,
Road.
1. Hands off.
Wait, we lost one of our letters.
Road.
Here we go.
Man.
Nice job. A lot.
What word do they make? They also cheated, so.
Could have spelled slit. Or
How many letters?
hills. Or lit.
They actually have a
Or
Alright.
ilts. Iltis. Or
11 letters. You know how many letters you have?
tills is pretty good.
Alright, well this team won.
Alright.
Do we understand the reply one? And we lost.
Leaders, what kind of methods were you using to, I don't know, communicate without, verbally communicating?
We tap.
I think we,
drop.
that's good. What about this team?
We did the left and right the same. We did a straight line up the back for forward and tap the boots for picking up.
Yeah, I saw your team was kind of slow and steady, but you had a method, and your team might have been a little bit more aimless, but you were getting letters. With your team, I think it kind of showed that followership is just as important as leadership, because sometimes she'd be given the command, or whoever was leading it, and everyone's just kind of walking around aimlessly. So followership is definitely as important as leadership. Anything else you saw? All right, that's time anyway. So you guys will be on.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Who else wants to do it? Sure.
Brandon.
All right, so basically what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be playing charades. It's going to be a little bit different type of charades. So to try to answer or try to guess what the actor is acting out, what word they're acting out, you have to answer word knowledge. So just raise your hand, we'll ask you a simple question. If you answer it incorrectly, there's no penalty. Somebody else can just answer it, and then they can guess what the person is acting out. You cannot write or speak out the words that they're trying to act out, so the actor cannot write those. It's a 1-minute penalty if you do get them. And then flatmates are allowed to talk after 3 minutes has passed, and then they're allowed to talk for 1 minute. If you guys talk outside of this 3-minute or this 1 minute window, every 3 minutes there's going to be a 2-minute penalty. So if I get the first person to come up, we'll start this quickly. We'll have 6 minutes now.
Okay, so hold on. Pause. So we have to answer warrior knowledge before we can answer the
Yes.
question? So raise your hand. We do that collectively, right?
No. The
That
individual.
one person.
Yeah,
So
raise
you
your hand.
we call on you, ask you a question, you answer
Yes.
correctly, then you
You
have to not
actually-
relate to the warrior knowledge.
Yes.
You answer warrior knowledge.
Yes.
The answer to that.
Yes.
Indubitably.
First.
I do understand the.
Indubitably in.
Should I start?
Yeah. Lay's got it.
Cake.
You may butcher this.
Oh! Go for it.
Yes.
Raise your hand. Air Force Vision. 2020.
Yes.
No.
You're supposed to say Air Force Vision.
Air Force Vision. No, wrong. Another person.
Oh, yes. I would not like to answer this one. Can I give you the warrior knowledge for him to give the answer? Is that acceptable? Yeah, working as a team. Goal of vigilance, reaching power.
Go.
Hey,
There we go, yeah.
No, 2020.
That's the rest of the Air Force Vision. It says Air Force Vision 2020. Yeah.
I think my.
No.
Ready? I haven't had it.
Oh, we know this one already.
Air Force mission.
To fly high fight.
Fly, fight, win in airspace and cyberspace. Yes.
He can answer.
Kangaroo.
Yes, that's kangaroo.
I think it's funny.
I was gonna say bunny.
Why is no one drawing on the board?
I feel like this should be.
Can I say
You guys are
that?
so active. It's
funny.
I was gonna guess.
Tornado? Are you allowed to talk?
Have to guess.
Is it charades or dictionary?
They can use it.
ROTC
Okay.
mission.
They can
Emergency mission, develop qualities for the Air Force, tornado.
No.
Is that how you say it? Like an tornado?
No, it is not.
Would you tear?
He's trying.
All right, we're big time.
Oh.
Scary movie.
Monster.
Something's shaking.
Honor code.
Honor code. Wow.
Wow.
Integrity first? No. Take a chance. Wow. Honor code. We will not lie, steal, or cheat, nor tolerate anyone among us who does. There you go.
What is your guess?
Earthquake.
Yes.
There we go.
I would have been like.
Oh, so
That's not hard.
hey, the board is allowed, guys.
I was off the
Yeah.
computer, off the
What's
thing.
allowed?
You all.
It's like-
The board is allowed. You can draw on the board if you want. You can draw if you want.
it's okay.
You can draw on the board.
It's whatever you want to do. Yeah. So if you guys want to
Newbie with these weird ideas, man.
or you can act, whichever one.
For 20 points.
Wait. For 20 points, you can draw it out?
No, that was.
He was kidding.
I was kidding.
Ignore him.
Proceed.
Please ignore
No,
him.
20
That
points.
guy.
I was about to be thoroughly upset. Nice circle.
Wow, that's really good. Impressive.
Be quick. It's a cookie.
You're a cookie.
Oh.
Oh, I don't know.
Air Force Corps
Pepperoni
values.
pizza.
Integrity first, first for self excellence, that's all we do.
Perfect.
Is it pizza?
Yes.
Is it pepperoni? Exactly.
Is that a big
It's so
pepperoni?
crushed.
Excuse me.
Gee, no, that's
Meat lovers. Cookies cake.
And I got pizza.
It's a good thing you found a board.
Can I use, whose stuff is this?
I'm surprised at that circle too.
Which one?
Very
Mess with your stuff.
Do the
Very
thing.
good. Top of your gun. What do you? I don't think it properly.
What's a maniac?
Is this reorganizing?
Oh.
You gotta scratch the open thing.
I don't mean it.
Hold on.
No, it's Jack. What is it?
7 basic responses.
Yes, sir. No, sir. I do not know, sir. Ask a question, permission to ask a question, may I make a statement? No excuse, sir. I do understand. It's standardization.
No. But it is close to standardization.
You didn't answer right anyway, so.
What was wrong with that?
This sir was supposed to come in from the law office. We can put it out here.
No.
You were sirless sometimes.
Technically, it doesn't matter. It's for brevity. That's all.
He was wrong anyways.
Ouch.
What did he just do to the stuff? He.
Come on, someone guess.
Yeah.
First article of the Code of Conduct.
Not American Fighting Force, by my country, I life, I'm trade of life and defense. Organization.
Yes.
Oh, there. Woo-hoo.
Next.
Quality. Quantity.
Let's go 100.
Everyone wasting your own time.
You got this. It's not hard.
Go.
Pizza.
I can say, yeah, I'll sing it. That doesn't count as.
It's a cowboy.
Come on, somebody.
You said Heisenberg.
Somebody guess. You got it.
Second article of the Code of Conduct.
Homestead mission. Yes. What is it?
Is that a Mexican?
That's on video.
Hey,
It's a sombrero.
Mrs. Firing. Mrs.
It's a
Firing.
sombrero.
Draw the.
No. I guess second hour told the code confidence.
I will never surrender my own free will at the command. I'll never surrender members of my command. Is it Pistol Pete?
Pistol Pete is a cowboy. I'll accept that.
That's a cowboy? It's a big mustache for a cowboy.
I just want to point this out real quick. So you guys didn't have as much time as Bravo 5 did. You actually could have beaten Bravo 5.
Hold on, pause. So if we're doing this minute by minute.
So this will be normalized, right?
Yeah, do a ratio. We are going to average, but okay. I'm just going to tell you guys real quick. So if you guys would have taken the 1 minute penalty and just wrote all of the answers up on the board, you could have completed it in less than 10 minutes and 30 seconds, and you would have gotten everything correct.
Gosh darn it.
We still have
Bob said
I just wanted to point that out. So don't tell the next slide. But you could have that could have been something you could have used.
Don't tell him. Sorry, no.
Well, Steve.
You ain't even gotta tell him. Don't tell him.
I'm going to tell them.
I think you guys have on your next stage. We only have 11 minutes left.
How long did you? 6 minutes and 17 seconds.
Here that's been patiently awaiting some announcements. Are there 7 individuals?
Yes.
Why don't you guys come down front and center here? You're gonna stand with me. You're gonna stand back there. We're gonna get all right. Today, of course, we had an awesome lecture speech into overcoming adversity. And if at first you don't succeed, don't quit. Keep going until you get what you want. So I think there was a question at first. I think you mentioned you wanted to do acquisitions or something like that. And your second choice was, or was that your first or second choice?
I have a top 3. First is acquisitions. They're all pretty much tied, intelligence and logistics right now.
So Luby, you said that you because you mentioned something next. What was you?
I said cyber operations, sir.
Cyber?
Yes, sir.
Cyborg. What's your degree in?
Computer science, sir.
Actually, there's an individual here that's known, other than myself, for about a week what your AFSCs have been. Immediately right after that discussion we had in class, and you all decided as a collective that you wanted to wait and make it something memorable. Well, Lieutenant Hill's known as long as I have, and we've been waiting for the right moment. So she came up with an idea. I don't know how to do
Zoomers, man.
Now, again, the needs of the Air Force will drive everything, right? And if you kind of remember some of the things that are going on in the news, the cheating scandal in a certain career field, they're probably going to have to backfill that career field. So the needs of the Air Force would tend to drive AFSCs. So just keep that in mind. Really, your computer science? Listen up!
Of Oklahoma, I decided to put you guys' AFSCs in water, orange water for cowboys, and I set it outside and it froze. So I guess you have to figure out a way how to get your jobs.
Now, with that in mind, whatever mess you make, you clean it up, right? There's no trace that you were ever there. So, if, yellow or
I ain't cold ice.
So if the seniors want to excuse themselves, the 7 individuals out front to figure out what you got. The rest of you are going to remain in place while they kind of do some work.
You could use each other's heads.
Real quick.
Excuse me, Lieutenant.
Quick, you coming?
Thank you, Libby.
Try again.
Hey, let me get my knife out.
Got cyber.
That was my thought.
Yes! What'd you get? What'd you get? What'd you get?
Acquisitions. Hell yeah! Where did my other one go?
Right here. Break it.
Try again. One club has your jobs, another one doesn't.
Yep, I got this.
Should be this one.
Congratulations, can I burn it? Cyber.
This one.
17 Delta.
There you go.
Yep.
What is that, Cadet Luby?
17 Delta.
What is that, Cadet Luby?
That is cyber.
Congratulations, sir.
He got cyber. Of course he did.
Cadet Taylor, what'd you get?
Nothing, I'm 5 here.
Oh, sorry, sir.
Make sure you get all the trash.
I find out sometime.
Did you actually
I'll do it.
I got 2 try agains.
No, there's 4. There's 4 sheets of paper.
I think it was like
There you go. Cadet Click, what did you get?
Logistics readiness.
Congratulations, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is that what you're going for?
First peek out.
For that to happen. So everybody's going to get an AFSC. They still have to pass my class, of course, and get commissioned, but we'll continue with the AFSCs. Louie, what'd you get?
17 Delta, also cyberspace operations.
All right.
Fighting with computers.
We're Faulkner. What'd you get?
13 in missiles.
Yeah.
17D, I'm gonna go hang out with Luby and Kiesler.
I'm
There
sorry.
you go. Cyber.
63 Alpha. Acquisitions.
Nice.
So there was a reason I picked on you two. Who's left? We're
James.
Click.
Logistics readiness.
Old man Anderson.
Developmental engineer.
All right.
There was 7, right? Was that all 7?
Yes, sir.
So congratulations. Good job, guys.
It'd be very expensive, like bring a bag of chips and some cheese or soda or hot dogs, whatever you want. We're just encouraging it. Parents, family, and other veterans are welcome to join in on the Veterans Day games and activities. Food, games, and football, so that's about it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. And like I said, the book drive winner is going to be announced at the tailgate, and they get a free home-cooked meal by us. So we should probably try to get some extra books in there, because the Army and you are like neck and neck. 37.
Five books. Yeah, congratulations to everybody who just got their commissioning. That's awesome. And we're glad that we got to be here to see all do that too. So yeah, we hope to see you at the tailgate. Thank you.
All right. Listen up. Any announcements before we do the review?
I do. Yeah.
I'm coming. Excuse me. Pardon me. There we go. Okay. As you know, there's a Frago sent out at the beginning of this week. Arnold Air Society, we're throwing a canned food drive. Yeah, it's not really going too well. All you gotta do is basically put in 1 canned food and you're winning. So let's try and change that, all right? I say, somebody puts in 1, another flight puts in 2, 3, and it just goes from there. So let's try and change that for next week, all right? Yeah.
Last year we raised 700 cans, so let's try to beat that.
Oh yeah!
All right, Express personnel. If you volunteered, I need to see you after. I'll be up in the conference room. Also, if you want to volunteer, there's still spots open. Come see me up there.
It's gonna be a crappy shift though.
Okay. Good turn.
All right, next Tuesday we're having a Christmas decorating the deck and putting up a Christmas tree party. We're gonna play movies, hopefully have like hot chocolate and cookies and stuff. So make sure you're here tomorrow, or not tomorrow, next Tuesday at 17:30 for like a little Christmas party.
Yeah, I'll go for the cookies.
Flippy gingerbread.
Any other announcements? All right, we'll have a review now by Cadet Trinary. All right, so we kicked off things tonight with a speech from Major Malloy. He talked about overcoming adversity. An example he used of someone overcoming adversity was Stephen Young. He was ranked at the bottom of the depth chart. He persisted, went on to win Super Bowls and have many meritorious awards. Some we can take away from that. Where do we want to be in our life? What do we want to do? We need to have the right tools to accomplish our goals. There's several things we can do to help accomplish our goals. Big takeaway from this was take charge of our life, make something happen. This was echoed by Colonel Charrington. We're basically at the whim of the Air Force right now, so persist, don't stop until you have what you want, basically. Also, we had our GLPs. We had the charades GLP. Some takeaways from that we can get was know your warrior knowledge, teamwork, big teamwork, being able to like not hear someone talk but realize what's going on, attention to detail. And from the mole GLP, they had to complete tasks and find the mole. Some takeaways from that was attention to detail and be aware of their surroundings to find that mole.